In the Army, I was a teacher at the Navy School of Music, but I was in the Army because at the time all the schools went to the same school, the Navy School of Music, and I taught there all the time I was in the service in Washington, D.C., which I was very lucky, of course. I didn't have to go to Korea. That was not very good news.
So tell the story again about Chet Baker being your student.
Oh, well, Chet Baker, for his second time in the Army, was at the Presidio San Francisco, and so that's was the first place I went to after going into the Army. And so then he was there, and he didn't get along too well with the officer in charge, and so he asked if I would help him out a little bit. Of course, I couldn't. I couldn't do anything because he did everything so naturally. He would even press the wrong valves down and play the right notes. So he was. I don't know how to describe Chet. In other words, to talk to him, you could hardly talk to him at all because he was not very verbal at all. But like he could sure play. But he was strictly a jazzer, and his reading wasn't, the best. And so finally they sent him, Chet Baker, down to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And so that was actually the last time, I saw Chet since then, but a very funny story happened because Chet at Fort Huachuca, he was the bugler in the band at Fort Huachuca. And so apparently one day there was this huge sandstorm out on the desert, and he was supposed to play the taps at a funeral. And so he said he couldn't even see where anybody was. It was so sandy and dirty. And so he said all of a sudden the wind stopped and everything stopped, and out of the heavens came a voice, and it said, "Chetty, split." So he did. So he came back to San Francisco, and finally he eventually got out of the service for the second time, and then shortly after that he went to play with Jerry Mulligan, and that was the beginning of his big career as a jazz trumpet player.
So when he was in the service, was he doing having to read stuff and play marches?
Yeah, sort of. I think he might have played the French horn in the band instead of the trumpet, but it didn't make any difference.
Was he playing by ear, do you think, rather than reading?
A little of both, depending on what it was. But Chetty, like if he heard a new tune that he didn't know, he would hear the tune once, like Where or When or something like that, and the second time he would hear it, he knew everything. That he knew the changes, he knew the melody, but it was not done intellectually, believe me.
How old do you think he was then?
He was my age.
Which was about what age when you were
in the military? I think around 23. And Chet lived until he was almost 60.
So that was all before he had his jazz career then?
Oh no, his jazz career started really with Jerry Mulligan. And so it went all the way through, and then of course he had many rough years in Europe and all over the place. And so it was not an easy life, but of course that type of life is not easy for anybody, no matter who you are.